Alright guys, so we're going to start with lesson 1.1 here. And with that, we're going to go into our individuals and variables. This is the first two things we're going to talk about, right? So when we're talking about a set of data, the individuals are labeled as person or things. Alright, person or things described in that data set. Described in data set. Then you have your variables, okay? Your variables are going to be classified as any attribute for the individuals. That varies, all right? So they could be categorical or quantitative. So we're just saying any, I'm going to say attribute. In which case, those are classified as categorical or quantitative. Okay, so categorical or quantitative. Now then you're probably wondering, well, what's the difference between those two? Well, when you're looking at this, your categorical values, it's abbreviated CAT, your categorical values given by a label. Right, your categorical values are given by a label, so an actual word, okay? Your quantitative, those are going to be a number that makes sense to find an average, okay? So notice that, I'm going to say number. Okay, and with that number makes sense to find an average. So, with thinking about that, those are the big things we're going to talk about initially. And with going into that, we're also going to make a frequency table, okay, and we're going to make a relative frequency table. Now with that, our frequency table is going to show counts. Show counts. Your relative frequency is going to show your percentage, right? So relative frequency shows percentage. So you're going to see the percentages out of the whole entire group. So with looking at that, let's go through and work a problem and kind of get this explained a little bit easier. So with this one, on the first day of statistics course, the instructor gave all 40 students in the class a survey. The table below shows data from the first 4 students on the class roster. So you've got gender, class, GPA, pulse rate, dominant hand, children and family, homework last night, so how many minutes it took them, sleep hours, and then if they have a smartphone. So now we're going to look at number 1 says to identify the individuals and variables in the data set and classify each variable as categorical or quantitative. So with this, now we said individuals or a person or thing that describes a set of data. So with this, what would you classify as your individuals? Individuals are going to be the students in the class, right? That's where they got this data. So students in class. And for your variables, your variables are going to be everything that we listed for each one of these students, right? Your variables are the gender, and I'm not going to write all these out. Gender, then you got you got gender, class, GPA, pulse rate, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to put in here like sleep to show that we're going down the list here. And then we got smartphone. Okay. So now, if you got all that, now it said it wanted us to classify each variable as categorical or quantitative. So in this case, we said that categorical is going to be a label, and then we said quantitative is going to be a number. Okay, now this number, it doesn't mean just everything that was the number is going to be quantitative, but that the number makes sense to find an average. So in other words, you could take a group of those numbers, the same variable, and be able to make an average. And with this, we're going to label them right underneath here. So if we have gender, the gender, male or female, so we should have categorical. For their class, freshman, junior, sophomore, categorical. Your GPA, those are numbers, right? Number values that they got. So it's going to be quantitative. Your pulse rate, it can be quantitative. It's the actual number value of your pulse. Dominant hand, right, left, well, it's categorical. Children and family, well, it's how many children you have, so it's a number, so quantitative. Your homework you did last night, in minutes, from 0 to 14, or from 15 to 29 minutes. Now let's think about this. Do you think it's quantitative or categorical? Well, in this case, they're going to be categorical. They're categorical because you wouldn't find the average of these intervals, right? You're not going to find the average of intervals. You're just saying that that value fell in that range. So it's a categorical. It's like giving you, this is the lower half, this is the higher half, middle half of something type of time frame. So even though they labeled it with numbers, it's still classified as categorical because it's a range of values. Now sleep, the number of hours, again, that's just an actual value of sleep. It's quantitative. And if they have a smartphone, yes or no, it's an actual label of yes or no, so it's categorical. That takes care of that first part. So we've now identified the individuals and the variables, and we've classified them as categorical or quantitative. And if we look down here, here are the age of 40 students in the class. So with this, it wants us to summarize the age distribution with a frequency table and a relative frequency table. All right, well now to do that, the best way to do it is to make a little chart here. So go ahead and make one out here. Sorry, it's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world. Just make a little box chart here. So we got that. Let's go ahead and put what we got going on over here. So we know we're going to have ages at the top there because we got age of these students. Okay, so we got ages. And then this said it wants to find frequency. And then it wants to find relative frequency. Okay. So how many age groups do we have here? Well, let's see. The smallest one we have looks like is 14. Let's see, the next one we go up to 15. We're going up to 16. We got 17. There's a throw 18 in there as well. Looks like we got 18 in there as well. All right. So frequency, that's just like your tally marks, right? So on here, we could say, looking for how many 14s we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5. Got 5 of them. Okay. Let's do a different color here so make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, so now let's do 15. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we just got 4. Okay. Now let's do 16. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got 9 of the 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay, so 9. Now 17. So 17, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we got 17 of 17. So I'll put our tally marks. It's 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. So we got 17 total there. And then for our 18s, let's see, what color don't we use yet? Let's use a gray color. So 18, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5 of the 18s. 5 tally marks, right the number 5 there. All right, so now we have set up a frequency table because we know how many frequency-wise we have of each of these number values. Now to find the relative frequency, we need to find the percentage, which is the amount out of the total there. So out of the total, if we were to take this, and let's just call this last little part of the table here, just call this our total. So if we take the total out of all these guys, we got 5, 4, 9, 9, 9 is 18, and 17, and 5, we should get out 40 of these guys. Because that number should match which number? This number should match this number right here, because he said we did 40 students, right? So to make sure that we counted all of them correctly, we should add up to be 40 total. So you got 5, 4, 9, 17, and 5 gives you 40. Now, to determine the relative frequencies, we're taking the amount that we had over those, dividing it by 40. So with this, go ahead and take our calculator here. Let me minimize it a little bit as we get in the picture here. So with that, let's say we had 5 over 40. So 5 divided by 40. Notice a Control Enter. So that gives us 12.5%. 0.125 is fine to write as well. So 0.125. And we know that's the same for our 18, right? It's the same value. So 0.125. So now we can look at 4, which hopefully you can see that 4 divided by 40 is just going to give you 0.1. Okay. Then we'll take 9 divided by 40. Let's take 9 divided by 40. Gives you 0.225. 0.225. And then our last one is going to be 17 divided by 40. Which is 0.425. All right, so now if we know that the top total for our frequency needed to add up to 40, because in the question it gave us the 40, what would our relative frequencies need to add up to be to make sure we got everything right? Both of you guys, in this case, since we just left it in decimal form, they should all add up to the number 1. And we can definitely verify that in our calculator just to make sure. We can simply take our 0.425 plus 0.225 plus 0.1 plus 0.125 plus 0.125. And that should give us 1. Because those values are everything that we just received from our table there. So with that, that is creating a frequency table and relative frequency table. Again, we're looking at dealing with our individuals and variables, and then on the variables, labeling them categorical or quantitative. Categorical is dealing with a label, and quantitative is dealing with a number that can be used to find an average. Okay? So that takes care of lesson 1.1. See you next time.